Madeira. This Portuguese island off the coast of Africa has so much on offer and so much to discover, but this volcanic island is far from the easiest one to get around. In this video, I'm going to show you the main ways of getting around the island, including renting a car, taking a bus, a taxi or a cable car, and of course walking. I'll share some advantages and disadvantages of each, as well as some recommendations of which one is the best to get to some of the top tourist attractions in Madeira. And at the end, I'll include one bonus, the most fun way to get around Madeira, so keep watching to the end for that. Now, let's start with number one, walking. Walking is one of the best ways to explore Madeira. It's free, it's eco-friendly, and you can discover some hidden gems that you wouldn't necessarily find with any other kind of transport. For example, Funchal town centre is best explored on foot. It's relatively flat and pedestrian friendly, with so many side alleys and historic buildings to explore. Going on foot is really the best way to do it, but walking has its limitations. Outside of Funchal town centre, it starts to get really hilly really quickly. So if you plan on doing more than 30 minutes or a few kilometers, I recommend taking an alternative transport, such as take a taxi. Just like most countries in the world, taxis are available in Madeira, and they're recognizable by their distinct yellow color on the islands. Taxis are a good option for getting around of journeys from 15 minutes to an hour. A 10-minute taxi ride might save you an hour's walk. But bear in mind that taxi ranks like this are mainly only found in central Funchal, not in surrounding areas, so you might find it easier to get out of Funchal than to return to it. For longer day trips, you would need to hire the taxi for the whole day, which can start to get a bit expensive. Typical prices start around 20 euros per hour, including waiting time while you're off adventuring. This option makes most sense if you're a group of 4 or 5 people that can split the cost of a standard car, or if you're 10 or more people and you can share a minivan. Now, Madeira has Bolt, an on-demand taxi service, just like Uber or Grab, which is a lot more convenient and is very transparent with the prices, a lot more competitive too, but the availability can be extremely limited. So if you're somewhere remote or you're trying to get one late at night, then don't rely on using Bolt. Taking a taxi would be a good option for reaching some of Madeira's peaks. The parking there is limited and the roads are really challenging and windy, so I wouldn't want to rent a car or a motorbike. But this is another option available to you. It gives you the freedom to travel where you want and at your own pace. Car rental companies are available in the center of Funchal, like this one behind me, or from the airport. But this is a less budget-friendly way of doing it. My friend recently rented a car for one day and it cost 70 euros, including insurance, and gas is around €1.60 per litre. Now, Portugal doesn't require an international driving license, but you should check with the car renting agency about any restrictions or requirements for you to rent a car. And lastly, make sure that you be confident on these tricky, mountainous and windy roads. A good destination to reach with a hire car would be Cabo Geral, a great skywalk with stunning views down the cliff, which is a popular tourist attraction. It's only a 20-minute drive from central Funchal and the roads are well marked and well maintained, so not too difficult to drive yourself. And for other popular tourist attractions, you can always take a tour. Organised tours are a great way to see lots of places in a short amount of time with your transport included. Last week we took a tour around Madeira's northwest coast and saw over 10 viewpoints and attractions in just one day. They can be a great way to visit some places that you wouldn't necessarily make a plan to see on its own, like Pool de Serra, high in the mountains. We booked cars on Get Your Guide and it costs less than 30 euros for a 10-hour trip, well worth it. You don't have to worry about driving yourself and you can even meet other travelers during your trip. The tours can sometimes feel a bit rushed and you can't customize the itinerary, so you can take a tour. Or you could take a bus. So Madeira has a bus network, but I found that it's mainly only available in central Funchal and the southeast of the island towards the airport. It's also somewhat difficult to use Google Maps to find bus stops and departure times, which makes it kind of difficult for tourists to use. For example, I looked for a bus journey to go to Mexico on Saturday, and Google Maps suggested a route that would take 6 hours to do the 25 kilometers journey, and it even suggested that I could take Bolt instead. We took a local bus to the Forum Madeira shopping centre just about 10 minutes away, and it cost €2 for a single ticket to get there. You can purchase your ticket from the driver when you're on the bus. So the bus network is really only useful for getting around Funchal Central more easily, or for the most popular tourist destinations, such as taking the bus to the airport. The buses are decently comfortable and run relatively frequently, but be sure to check the bus schedules and to plan your route in advance. The buses run almost as frequently as the cable cars. Now the cable cars, they're more of a tourist attraction and novelty than a practical way to get around Madeira, but it's definitely an interesting experience to see the island from a new perspective. The cable cars are very direct, and that makes them the quickest way to gain altitude quickly, but their destinations are very limited. The main attraction you take the cable car for would go to the Mont Palace Tropical Gardens, a really beautiful gardens right at the top of the mountain that you can explore for a couple of hours. A ticket costs €18, so it is a little bit pricey, but it's something well worth doing at least once during your trip to Madeira. The journey takes approximately 15 minutes, and you can buy your tickets directly from the cable car station in front of me. You can also take a separate cable car route from the Mont Palace Gardens to the Botanical Gardens too. If, unlike the cable car, you want to get a bit more hands-on with your transport, alternatively, you could rent a scooter. So this is the bonus one on the list. It's the most fun, but the least practical. These bikes are by Super Pedestrians, so you can download the app and you can search for bikes that you can rent. But you can only find them in Funchal town centre. And don't expect to get very far or very fast on them. They're limited to 30 kilometers an hour. But if you get tired of walking around Funchal, then these can be a fun alternative to get around. Follow traffic laws and drive safely. So let me give you an example about traveling around Madeira. So today we've taken a day trip to the Fanal Forest, right in the middle of the island. And this is quite a good example of travel that you'll want to do, because most attractions are not in Funchal or in the city centre, so they'll require you to travel. So about Fanal Forest, there's good and the bad. So let's start with the good. Let me show you around this beautiful place. So as you can see, there are these gnarled trees that are really beautiful and ancient. You can walk around, it's really good to see the nature. So it's definitely a must-visit destination. But the bad, it's very difficult to access. And this is quite typical of lots of other attractions that you might want to see. So how do you get here? Well, you're definitely not going to walk, and there are no buses available to go to this place. So your three main options are going to be to take a tour, to book a taxi, or to rent a car and drive yourself. So if you book a tour, you have to choose the right one that's going to visit here. You might be a bit rushed, but the price is going to be pretty good. Option number 2 is to book a taxi. This is going to be fast and convenient. You don't need to drive yourself, but it is going to be one of the more expensive options. One of the taxi companies quoted us €160 for a round trip to Fanal Forest from Funchal with a 3-hour stop. So very expensive option. And number 3 is to rent a car and drive yourself. So this would be good, it's very flexible, but you might be a bit tired having to drive yourself, but that's probably the best option. And that's quite typical of a lot of attractions here in Madeira. Booking a tour or driving yourself in a car are going to be your best options, because it is very difficult to get around the island by yourself. So there you have it, my Madeira transport guide. Some of the pros and cons of each method of transport, and the best ways to get to some of Madeira's top tourist attractions. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel for more travel guides and experiences. If you want to see our full experience at the Mont Palace Tropical Gardens, you can watch this video up here. Or for a ready-made itinerary to explore the west of Madeira, you can see this video down here. So thanks for watching, enjoy your trip to Madeira, and I'll see you in the next one.